Buddhism gives us the parable of the blind men and the elephant. In the parable, a group of blind men are brought to an elephant for the first time and feel different parts of the animal. Understandably, they all come to contrasting conclusions about what the elephant looks like. But then, rather than combining their efforts, they each come to suspect that the others are lying. For years, those who believe Amanda Lewis is innocent have thought that her son AJ did not see or drown her sister Adrianna in the family pool. Instead, they think he came to an incorrect conclusion about what had happened by only coming upon his sister after the fact. But what's the picture that emerges not only from Amanda's accounting of events, but also what was said by a fourth person in the trailer on the day of the drowning, as well as a neighbor who drove by mere minutes before Amanda called 911.
Hi, and welcome back to Undisclosed, Towards Justice, the State versus Amanda Lewis. My name is Rabia Chaudhry. I'm an attorney and author, and I'm here with my colleague, Colin Miller.
Hi, this is Colin Miller. I'm a professor at the University of South Carolina School of Law, and I blog at Evidence Prof blog. This is the second episode of our deep dive investigation into the drowning death of Adrianna Hutto, which led to her mother Amanda being behind bars for the last 18 years.
In terms of Amanda's story of the drowning, let's go all the way back to the 1980s and 1990s when she was growing up.
Well, let me go ahead and start with your childhood and ask where you grew up and what your childhood was like.
I grew up in Alabama, around Dothan, Geneva, Hartford, Slocum. That was where I grew up. My parents divorced when I was young, so I kind of ping-ponged back and forth. Most of the time it was of my choosing. I wouldn't say I had the best of childhoods, but I didn't have a bad one. Mm-hmm. I knew my parents loved me like in their own, their own way. I didn't have a bad childhood. Uh-huh. It didn't, kind of get iffy until I think around 13. I went to live with my aunt because I got in some trouble. Uh-huh. And some things started happening with my uncle. Mm-hmm. Things that he shouldn't have been doing to me that ultimately landed me going back to live with my mom.
Okay.
Amanda's childhood ultimately ended early when she had her first child, Alex, birth name David Alexander Hutto, at age 17.
And what was that like for you, having a child at that age?
Definitely, it was definitely a eye-opener. I really didn't understand what was going on. I don't even know how to put it into words. Now looking back, I wished it wouldn't have happened. Not because of him, but just because of not being, prepared for it, being so young. There was a lot that I didn't get to experience, like going to college, et cetera, et cetera. I did it later, but now looking back, being an adult, I wish I wouldn't have done it so early. But it's definitely a cherished moment.
Amanda is white, while Alex's dad is black. And here's Amanda describing to Colin how people in the area responded to the racial dynamics.
And did you experience any difficulties or not in terms of raising the child where you were in terms of the race of the child and the father?
Some, but it was mostly the church that we were going to at the time. Mm-hmm. They had some negativity towards it. Till later on we left. My mom and my stepdad, we left from that church.
Okay.
I would catch glimpses of stairs, but for the most part, I really didn't have any difficulties aside from the people that were in the church.
Got it.
Unfortunately, Alex began experiencing some health issues, which led to multiple visits to various doctors.
We, as in my mom and I, started noticing, like, he would play for a little while and then he would just sit and just stare. And then he would get up and play and he would just lay down. And so we took him to the doctor. Of course, I was, Mommy, you're worrying too much, and they would send us back home. We took him a few more times, and eventually they did a brain scan and found that he was having seizures.
Right.
So I was told to be more cautious, keep a watch on him, et cetera, et cetera. So we did, but unfortunately, literally 2 weeks after that appointment, I put him down for a nap and he had a seizure in his sleep, to which ultimately he passed away from.
Right. And how devastating is that for you as a mother to have your child pass away like that?
It was very devastating. Even though I was young, it was like all my children were and are still, I guess my way of putting it into words, they were what I define myself by. They were what made me want to be a better person, want to do everything the right way, or at least try. So to lose that, it was very devastating,
right,
especially to be that young.
This is the first chance for us to address the misreporting of this case and similar cases online. If you look around the internet, you'll see all sorts of people alleging that Amanda's first child died under suspicious circumstances. This then leads to one of two take-homes. First, that Amanda intentionally killed both Alex and Adrianna. Or second, that Amanda was a bad mom with 2 kids who died under her watch. But the bottom line here is that there were no suspicious circumstances with Alex. We have the autopsy report. It has 5 findings in the final anatomical diagnosis section regarding the cause of death. First, hypoxia, i.e. insufficient oxygen in the body's tissues due to seizure disorder. 2, diffuse visceral congestion. 3, clinical history of seizure disorder and sleep apnea. 4, post-operative status, cardiopulmonary resuscitation attempts. And 5, no evidence of trauma. Simply put, Alex's death was due to a medical condition, not a mystery. Feeling like she'd lost her purpose after Alex's death, Amanda made the decision to enlist in the Army National Guard.
And so then, going back to this time period after this all occurs, you make the decision to enter the military, right? And what prompts that decision to go into the military, and what branch were you going into?
The Army, and I did it because, at the time I felt like, I had lost my purpose. So I was trying to find something else to give me purpose. So that's when I joined the military.
And is there anything specifically about the military in general, or the Army in specific, that you thought would give you that purpose in that moment?
I felt like being able to give back, to help other people, to, try to make a difference. That was what I felt like would give me my purpose.
Soon after enlisting, however, Amanda learned she was pregnant with Adrianna and took maternity leave to give birth to her daughter. Unfortunately, Amanda got very little leave, so she was sent off for basic training while her mother raised Adrianna for the first few months of her life. But Amanda injured her leg in basic training, so she returned home, had another pregnancy, and gave birth to her son, AJ, about a year later. Now, there's a lot more nuance behind all of this that we're going to save for later because it's part of the state's narrative that Amanda was a bad mother. So we're going to need to discuss that in more detail. Next, both rewinding and fast-forwarding, both shortly after having her first son and soon after having her second son, Amanda embarked on a career working in nursing homes.
And what was it that drew you both the Bonifay nursing home and the prior nursing homes to work in that field as what you wanted for your employment?
Actually, my mom got me started on that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what she did.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had the training moved into the nursing home that she was at. And so she ultimately put me onto it, and I started doing it. I believe that was right after I had my first son.
Mm-hmm.
That was what I did with my mom.
Got it. So you two worked together for a time.
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
She was my boss.
But in between jobs at nursing homes, Amanda had a job at a grocery store, which is where she met Alan Carnley.
The grocery store that he worked at, I worked there for a little while. And that's how we ultimately met before I went to that last nursing home.
Yeah. And so how would you describe your relationship with Alan?
It was a good relationship. We got along. We didn't argue. We didn't fight. We didn't, we had fun. His kids were older than mine, but for the most part, everybody got along. Like I said, we just like having fun with our kids.
Yeah.
That was our main thing. So I think we had a very good relationship, and believe it would have went on to be even better had,
Right.
Eventually, Amanda and her children moved into Alan's double-wide trailer, which was situated on a lightly traveled dirt road. As Amanda noted, Alan had 2 children from a prior relationship who would split living time with Alan and their mother. One of these kids was 14-year-old Alan Michael, also called Alan Jr., who had just arrived back at Alan Sr.'s trailer the night before Adrianna drowned.
Having laid that groundwork, let's in fact start with the night before the drowning, August 7th, 2007. Last episode, we noted how Esto is such a small town. Well, Alan Carnley was a volunteer firefighter, and that night, he actually attended a meeting with the same 3 first responders to the drowning the very next day, including Chief Charles Corcoran. After Alan got home, Amanda left for her 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift at Bonifay Nursing and Rehab.
The evening of August the 7th. Did your girlfriend go into work that evening?
Yes, sir, she did.
I believe you went to some meeting there at the volunteer fire department, didn't you?
That's correct.
That would have been with Chief Corcoran and Jose Martinez and Gary Jacobs?
The next morning, Alan woke up at 5 a.m. so he could leave by 5:30 a.m. and get to his job as a meat cutter at a local grocery store by 6 a.m. On his way out, he noticed that Adrianna was already up.
The next morning, when you woke up to go to work, what time was that?
I got up about 5 and left about 5:30.
Before you left, did you have any contact with Adrianna Hutta?
I seen Adrianna that morning, yes.
Where was she?
She was still in her bedroom.
What was she doing?
She was sitting up in her bed.
Now, as noted, Amanda worked the 11 to 7 shift at the nursing home, so she wasn't home yet. Normally, Alan and Amanda's shifts synced that someone was always home, but this was the once-a-week occasion in which Alan had to go into work early.
Is that like an everyday thing, or just...
Not every day. I don't have to go in early every day.
Is it like one day a week?
About 1 day a week.
Who watches the kids while you do that?
Usually I got my boy there and my niece.
On this day, as we noted, Alan's 14-year-old son, Alan Jr., was the one who was there holding down the fort. And, as we also noted, Alan Jr. had just returned to Alan Sr.'s trailer from his mother's house for the first time in 2 to 3 weeks.
Where does your mama live?
In Wicksburg.
All right, do you stay with her sometimes?
Yes, sir.
All right, in fact, hadn't you just got back to your dad's house when this happened?
Yes, sir.
How long had you been back at his house?
I got there like the night before.
All right, so you had just got there the night before. How long had you been away?
Like a week or 2 or 3 weeks.
All right.
This seems like an important point because when Alan Jr. was asked about what had happened that day, it's highly likely he had the right day and wasn't remembering something that had happened days or weeks before. Because again, he hadn't even stayed at the trailer for the past 2 to 3 weeks. According to Alan Jr., he was up until 1 or 2 a.m. the prior night playing video games and watching TV in his room. Turning to the morning of August 8th, Alan Jr. said he was woken up at about 6 a.m. to the sound of AJ and Adrianna yelling at each other.
All right, now, you said you stayed up till 1 or 2 o'clock. What's the first thing you remember the next morning, Mr. Carnes?
Like 6 o'clock in the morning, AJ and Adrianna were yelling at each other.
Okay, did you see either one of them, or you just hear that?
I just heard it.
Okay, could you hear what either one of them were saying?
No, sir.
All right.
This is critical not because of what AJ and Adrianna were yelling about. Instead, it's salient because it establishes early on that there were thin walls in the trailer, meaning you could hear raised voices. Indeed, the state doesn't dispute this, and it's central to their theory of Amanda later being woken up by Adrianna slamming kitchen cabinet doors. In turn, this takes us to Amanda's arrival home. As we noted last episode, Amanda had a monthly meeting that morning after her 11 to 7 shift, so she didn't arrive home until around 8 a.m.
So what time did you get in today? You said you got off work this morning?
In from work,
Yeah.
it was a little after 8 because we had a meeting this morning. We have one every payday, an in-service. So I got there right at 8, a little after 8 o'clock.
According to Amanda, when she got home, Adrianna wasn't feeling well, likely due to eating chili cheese hamburger helper the night before.
Well, when I got home this morning, Adrianna said that she had thrown up, and there was some in her bed. There was a little throw up in her bed, and she had threw up one more time. And I asked her, was her stomach hurting? Last night we had some chili cheese hamburger helper, and I didn't know if maybe that made her sick. And she said she wasn't feeling good, but, she didn't want anything to eat.
Amanda says that over the next hour and a half, she changed, read a book, watched some TV, and eventually took a nap at around 9:30 a.m. as the kids watched cartoons.
You said you took a nap at around 9:30?
Mm-hmm.
What transpired in that hour and a half there?
Well, nothing really. I changed my clothes, took my uniform off. I cleaned out my bag because I had brought some extra stuff home. I had brought some books. I put them up. Got the book out that I was reading. I sat down and read a little bit of it, and laid it down. And then I went and laid across the bed. I turned the TV on, watched a little bit of TV, and then I went in there and told them I was going to take a nap. And so I turned the TV off and I laid down.
And they were still watching TV?
Mm-hmm. They were watching cartoons.
Up through this point, Amanda and AJ's stories line up, with AJ agreeing that Adrianna and he watched cartoons throughout the morning.
What'd you do when you woke up this morning?
I was watching cartoons.
According to Amanda, after going down for a nap, she woke up between 12:30 and 1 p.m.
And you went to bed then?
I probably didn't lay down until about 9:30 when I laid down.
And what time did you say you got up?
It was around 12:30 or 1 o'clock when I got up.
Now, this is where AJ and Amanda's stories start to diverge. AJ said that Amanda woke up due to Adrianna spraying something, followed by Amanda going back to sleep and then being woken up twice more by Adrianna misbehaving, which led to Amanda dunking her in the pool. By way of contrast, Amanda said she woke up to the kids still watching cartoons, watched with them for half an hour to an hour, and then had a talk with them about whether they'd get in the pool or go school shopping.
You got up, they were still watching cartoons, and then what transpired from there?
Well, they, continued to watch cartoons. I got up, I got something to drink. Went in there and I sat down and was watching cartoons with them, and that's when they asked if they could, get in the pool. And then that's when I told them, do you want to go get in the pool or do you want to go get your school stuff? And they wanted to go get their school stuff because they had already picked out book bags and all kind of stuff out of the papers.
Now, notably, despite AJ saying his mom woke up in a fury and dunked Adrianna in the pool, in his testimony at trial, AJ agreed with Amanda that they had made a plan to go school shopping.
Were y'all supposed to go to town that day to get some supplies, some school supplies?
Just so.
All right. Did you end up going that day to town to get school supplies?
No, so.
Where was Alan Michael when this happened?
He was in the house.
This takes us back to the fourth person in the trailer, Alan Jr., Alan Sr.'s 14-year-old son. In his police interview, he said that he woke up at about 1:30 p.m.
I woke up and I checked on my phone to see if anybody called me.
About what time was that?
About 1:30.
So, Alan Jr. said he woke up at about 1:30 p.m. Now, notably, Alan Jr. mentioned nothing about hearing or being woken up by Adrianna misbehaving 3 times or Amanda punishing her. And he didn't say anything about hearing Adrianna slamming cabinet doors. Remember, at 6 a.m., he heard Adrianna and AJ yelling at each other. But that's it. Nothing between 6 a.m. and waking up 7.5 hours later. And this was more than mere silence on the subject. Alan Jr. was specifically asked about this period of time in his police interview, and he denied hearing anything.
Do you know, did you hear Amanda yelling at the youngins or anything? Never did hear no yelling.
Moreover, Alan Jr. said everything seemed pretty chill when he woke up. Nothing like the 2 drowning scenario that AJ said happened after Amanda was woken up a 3rd time. Specifically, Alan Jr. said Amanda was in the kitchen.
Did you see Amanda?
I think I seen her in the kitchen.
Meanwhile, Alan Jr. said AJ was running around the house and then outside.
You said you got up about 1:30.
I seen AJ run through the house and he ran outside. And then I went in there and got some of the drink, went back in my room, watched TV.
So, to break that down, from roughly 1:30 to 1:33 p.m., Alan Jr. wakes up, checks his phone, leaves his room, sees Amanda in the kitchen when he's getting a glass of water, and sees AJ running around the house and then outside. Now, all of this lines up really well with Amanda's timeline, which has Adrianna and AJ going to the front yard and playing with toy tractors by the garbage can tree at around this time.
Okay, then what happened?
I piddled around a little bit more, and then they wanted to go outside, and they went outside and played. And they were sitting in the dirt playing with his tractors. Right there where that tree's at in the front, in that dirt. That's where they were playing. And me walking back and forth, they stayed there for the longest, just playing with the tractors.
But this doesn't just line up with Amanda and Alan Jr.'s story. It's actually also what AJ said happened during this period of time.
Did you and Adrianna go outside today?
Not when Mama was asleep.
What about when she got up?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What'd you do outside?
Play with my tractors and scaring off the bugs with my toy gun.
According to Amanda, for the next 30 minutes or so, she did some cleaning, including putting down a load of laundry and vacuuming.
Is that your general recollection of the next half hour or so you're doing some cleaning around the house?
Yes, that's what I was doing that morning. I did a couple loads of laundry while I was cleaning, vacuuming, so that we could go. And they were playing outside in the front. I could see them out the window.
Right.
Again, this lines up with what Alan Jr. said, which is that after he returned to his room to watch TV, he heard Amanda vacuuming the living room.
And what was Amanda doing during that time?
I heard her vacuuming the living room. I heard the vacuum going.
And again, this doesn't just line up with what Alan Jr. said. Instead, AJ also told a very similar story.
Did your mama do any work around the house? Did you do any cooking?
You know, when he was sleeping,
Did she do any cleaning?
washing the dishes and washing the clothes.
So how does this cohere with AJ's other version of events? Here, his mom cleans inside the trailer while Adrianna and AJ play with toy tractors outside. In his other story, after their mom was woken up by Adrianna slamming cabinet doors, she dunks Adrianna in the pool, sends her to the park, picks her up, brings her back, and drowns her again. How could these 2 separate stories happen at the same time? Well, they can't, which leaves 2 options. Option 1 is that this is after Amanda had already dunked Adrianna the first time. But that makes no sense, because that would mean Adrianna would have gone to the park or bus stop and wouldn't be playing with tractors with AJ in the front yard. Option 2 is that this is before Amanda dunked Adrianna the first time. But that was supposed to be the result of Adrianna waking Amanda up by slamming cabinet doors. In this scenario, Amanda is already up and cleaning, according to both AJ and Alan Jr. So, simply put, the story about Amanda dunking Adrianna just doesn't fit. Hey, Undisclosed listeners, we're going to take a quick ad break, and I just want to explain something to you about why it's so important for you guys to support our sponsors. You might not know this, but all these years, all the work we have done for all of the defendants whose cases we reinvestigate and cover has been pro bono. We don't charge them or their families or their lawyers a dime. And the only way we can afford to do this, which this is work that would ordinarily cost a defendant hundreds of thousands of dollars, the only way we can afford to do this is because of our sponsors. So we are so grateful to our sponsors, and we are grateful to all of you. If you want to know what you can do to help support our work, support our sponsors. Thank you so much.
Hey friends, my name is Joel, and I'm the host of the Let's Read podcast, home to some of the most terrifying tales known to man. Now, the stories I read are a mix of petrifying personal accounts, chilling true crime documentaries, and scary stories submitted by listeners just like you. Meaning you could share your own frightening experiences with my hundreds of thousands of loyal subscribers. So, if you're a fan of horror or true crime, be sure to check out the Let's Read podcast, available wherever you're listening right now.
Hi, everybody. Rabia here. I am so excited to tell you, if you haven't heard yet, that Undisclosed finally has a Patreon. Our Patreon is where you will find all kinds of perks like ad-free episodes, a bonus episode every month where Colin and I answer all your questions, and also you're going to find perks like early access to our limited merch drops, which are going to start happening twice a year, as well as the ability to get on a Zoom call with me once a month, face-to-face, to live discuss any true crime case that you guys are obsessed with and really want to go through. And I love having a place to talk about that stuff because I need people to talk about it with. But if you're not in it for the perks and you're in it for the justice and you just want to support our work, I would really ask you to please sign up for the $1 a month tier. And the perk there is just good karma and warm fuzzies and being in the fight for justice for these defendants, because if everybody chips in $1 a month, our work can be funded for another decade to come. So check out the Undisclosed Patreon by going to patreon.com/undisclosedpod. Again, it's patreon.com/undisclosedpod. And I hope to see you all there. Thank you for supporting our work for a decade, and please stay with us so we can do this for years to come. Returning to Amanda's account of events, she said she cleaned for about 30 minutes before telling the kids she'd be taking a shower, and that they'd then do the same before they went school shopping.
Is there somewhere in here you took a shower?
Yeah, right after I come in from checking on them when they were outside. And I told them that whenever I went to take my shower that I'd come get them and they'd go take theirs and we'd get ready to go.
Okay. So they had been out. They just got started playing outside, or had they been outside a while? And
they were probably out there about 30 minutes.
And then you told them you were going to take a shower?
Mm-hmm.
Syncing this with Alan Jr.'s memory, he remembered waking up at 1:30, checking his phone and leaving his room just in time to see AJ running around inside before he ran outside. So this would be at about 1:33 p.m., with Amanda starting her shower about half an hour later at about 2:03 p.m. Amanda said that her shower was about 10 minutes long, followed by 5 minutes of getting dressed.
Okay. About how long do you say all that time period was?
Usually it takes me maybe 10 minutes to take a shower. And then I got dressed, so that's probably another 5 minutes.
So if this is true, 15 minutes from 2:03 makes it 2:18 p.m. At this point, we have a critical anchoring event, but the jury never heard about it at trial. Amanda telling Alan Jr. that she was taking the kids school shopping and seeing if he wanted to tag along. Here's Amanda telling me about it.
I remember going to his room and he was watching TV. I told him what I was going to do. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe asking him, did he want to go or did he want to go to his cousin's house?
Right.
And if he did and they were there, I'd drop him off.
Right.
And then I proceeded going about what I was doing.
And in turn, here's the pertinent portion of Alan Jr.'s police interview.
And then I started watching TV, and then Miss Amanda came in there and told me that she was going to take him school shopping.
Okay.
So then I called Brandon, and I was going to go to his house. Well, they didn't answer the first time, so I was going to call him again later after I got out the shower. And so I went and got in the shower.
Fleshing this out, the Brandon whom Alan Jr. references is his cousin. And as you heard, both Alan Jr. and Amanda recall Amanda coming in to tell Alan Jr. she was taking the kids school shopping, with Alan Jr. saying he wanted to go to Brandon's house. This is totally consistent with Amanda's story. We also have a pretty good timestamp for this talk. According to Alan Jr., after his call to Brandon went unanswered, he started showering before AJ came in and told him about Adrianna drowning. Specifically, Alan Jr. estimated it was about 15 to 20 minutes after his phone call that AJ got him out of the shower.
And so I went and got in the shower, and then AJ ran in there and told me that Adrianna was dead. So I ran outside, and Miss Amanda was giving him out the mouth.
Based on the timing of Amanda's 911 call, we know that AJ got Alan Jr. from the shower at about 2:38 p.m. Working backwards from that endpoint, this means that Alan Jr. saw Amanda from about 2:19 to 2:20 p.m., just before he called Brandon. This syncs perfectly with Amanda getting dressed after her shower until about 2:18 p.m., followed by popping into Alan Jr.'s room to tell him her school shopping plans. Now, we have another timestamp in this case, and this one is even more fixed. According to Amanda's cell phone call log, she made a call to Alan Sr. at his grocery store at 2:30 and 16 seconds. And both Amanda and Alan Sr. said this call was about how she was going to take the kids school shopping. We'll get to that call later in this episode, but even the prosecution at trial agreed that if Amanda drowned Adrianna, it happened before this cell phone call. That leaves just a roughly 10-minute window between these two bookends and takes us back to AJ's timeline. He said that Amanda dunked Adrianna, sent her to the bus stop or park, drove to get her, brought her home with a struggle, and finally fatally drowned her. I think anyone would agree that all of this did not happen in the 10-minute window between Amanda talking to Alan Jr. and calling Alan Sr. So what if we try to break things up? Is it possible that Amanda had already sent Adrianna to the bus stop or park before talking to Alan Jr.? Could she have hightailed it after the talk, gotten in her car, driven to the bus stop or park, gotten Adrianna, brought her back with a struggle, taken her to the pool, drowned her in the pool, and then been back in the trailer by 2:30 to make this call to Alan Sr.? This also seems impossible, and that impossibility is compounded by another witness we'll tell you about in a bit. That leaves only the possibility that Amanda popped into Alan Jr.'s room after she had already driven to get Adrianna from the park or bus stop. But Alan Jr. said that wasn't the case.
Did you ever hear her leave the house, close the door, or go somewhere?
No, sir.
Did you ever hear her get in her car and crank up her car and leave?
No, sir.
Now you might wonder why what Alan Jr. told the police about Amanda popping into his room wasn't devastating to the state's timeline of trial. And the answer is, unfortunately, that Alan Jr. wasn't asked about this conversation while he was on the witness stand. He told this to the police, Amanda clearly remembers it, and their memories sync up, but the jury was never told about it. So we know Alan Jr.'s general timeline. He talked to Amanda from about 2:19 to 2:20, then his call to Brandon went unanswered about 2:21, and then he got in the shower. So what about Amanda? Recall that she said she had started a first load of laundry at a time we estimate to be between 1:30 and 1:33 p.m. She then said that after cleaning, taking a shower, and talking to Alan Jr., she went to switch over this load of laundry and start a new one.
Did you say you were doing some laundry or something like that?
I took the towels out of our bathroom and put them in the washing machine, and then put the ones from the washing machine in the dryer.
When asked to tally all of her time from when the kids went outside and she started cleaning until she switched over the laundry, Amanda said the following.
And then getting the towels up, taking them to the laundry room, switching everything over, probably maybe an hour at the most before I went out and asked him where she was at to get them to come inside.
All of this adds up. Alan Jr. woke up at about 1:30, saw AJ heading outside at about 1:33. As Amanda said, she did laundry and clean for about 30 minutes after the kids went outside, taking us to about 2:03. Amanda then showered for about 10 minutes, got dressed for about 5 minutes, taking us to 2:18. Amanda next popped in and talked to Alan Jr. for a couple of minutes, from 2:19 to 2:20. She then changed over the laundry for about 5 minutes, taking us to 2:25, right in line with Amanda's estimate that this all took place over the course of an hour at most. So let's set aside AJ's story about the two dunkings, which now seems totally impossible. When Amanda was done talking to Alan Jr. at about 2:20, is it possible she went directly outside and fatally drowned Adrianna, despite her claim that she changed over the laundry? The answer is no, but it's based upon someone the jury never heard about at trial.
Specifically, the trailer where Amanda and the kids lived was at 3343 First Avenue South in Esto, Florida. There's basically nothing to the east of the trailer on this east-west dirt road, meaning that almost no cars pass by.
The only people that pass by our house is the older couple that lives in the corner, and then the man that's got the field beside us.
And what this meant was that it was a big deal when someone drove by, to the point where AJ would run in the house even if someone was just turning around in their yard.
I mean, anytime anybody pulls up in the yard, even if they're just turning around, if he's out there, he'll come flying in the house. I mean, that's what we've told him to do.
Yeah.
So if anybody would have come up in that yard, he would come out near Alan Michael.
As noted, First Avenue South runs east-west. About 450 feet to the west of the trailer, First Avenue South intersects with Commerce Street, a north-south street. If you turn left from First Avenue onto Commerce Street and then head south about 120 feet, you will arrive at 1030 Commerce Street, the home of Earl Wells, literally just around the corner from the trailer. Earl Wells was interviewed at his home by Lieutenant Chris Wells in connection with this case, and for the record, those two have no relation to each other. Now, there's no recording of the interview, but we have the transcript. No one has ever reported on its contents before. According to Earl, on the day of the drowning, he had been to his farm to check on his cows and some yearlings that he was feeding for slaughter. Then, on his way back to his home, he took the dirt road that passed by the trailer. Earl said 3 key things about what he saw and what he didn't when he drove by the trailer. First, he saw no one in or by the pool and no one in the front yard. Second, when asked an open-ended question about whether he saw any vehicles in the yard, he responded that there was a red car parked, quote, right up close to the front door. Third, he didn't see the wagon or bike by the pool, which lines up with what Scott Kirkland said. You might recall from episode 1 that Scott Kirkland was the bush hogger who was at the house at 1 p.m. and said that the bike and wagon were in the wooded area where he was working, over 100 feet from the pool. You might also recall from episode 1 that first responder Charles Corcoran testified that the bike and wagon were right next to the pool when he arrived at 2:42 p.m. That leaves the question of when Earl drove by the trailer. Let's start with a timeline of the crime created by lead agent Michael Raley. He wrote, quote, approximately 2:30 p.m., Earl Wells drives by the residence. He stated that he did not recall seeing the wagon by the pool and did not see any children in the yard. So how did Agent Michael Raley arrive at this time estimate? Quoting Earl in his police statement, he said, quote, and I came home and I was gonna change shoes, and in the process I heard on the scanner that there was a child at a residence in Esto, a 7-year-old that couldn't breathe. Now, while we're not sure what Earl's involvement was, he did have some involvement with law enforcement. So what he's referring to is that he heard about Adrianna's drowning on his police scanner. And then when he was asked how much time had passed between driving by the trailer and hearing about the drowning on the police scanner, he responded by saying, quote, "I'd say not more than 10 or 15 minutes, if that much." It's hard to underestimate how critical Earl's testimony could have been at trial. We know that Adrianna's drowning hit the police scanner at 2:38 p.m. Therefore, if Earl's 10 to 15 minute time estimate was accurate, that means he drove by the trailer between 2:23 and 2:28 p.m. at the very earliest. Moreover, there's not really a reason to think this time estimate is off. It's not like he lived 30 miles away or was trying to figure out how long it took him to make his grits before he turned on the police scanner. He drove by the trailer, turned the corner, got to his house, was going to change his shoes, turned on the police scanner, and he heard about the drowning. And as Earl said, when he drove by, no one was in or by the pool, and no one was in the front yard. The bike and wagon weren't by the pool. And Amanda's red car, her Chevy Cavalier, was parked right next to the house. What this means is that the story told by the state and AJ at trial conclusively could not be true. Earl didn't drive by after Amanda brought Adrianna home from the park or bus stop or wherever AJ was saying, because no one was in the front yard or in or by the pool. And Earl didn't drive by while Amanda was driving to get Adrianna, because Amanda's red Cavalier was parked right next to the trailer. Finally, what that means is that Earl finished driving by the trailer at about 2:24 p.m. at the very earliest, leaving only a 5 or 6 minute window between his drive-by and Amanda calling Alan Sr. on her cell phone from inside the trailer at 2:30 p.m.
So first, as we said, this means that the two drowning story is definitely not true. Second, based upon when Earl Wells would have driven by the trailer, 2:27 or 2:28 p.m. is likely the very earliest that Adrianna could have ended up in the pool. And in fact, that's exactly what I think happened, which lines up well with a few other things, but definitely not the state's timeline at trial, which we'll lay out later in this episode. To get there, let's start with a last point where Amanda and AJ's stories sync. According to Amanda, after turning over the laundry, she went to the front door, where she saw AJ in the garbage can tree.
And then I walked to the front door, and I couldn't see Andrew, and he was in the trees beside the house, climbing in them. And I asked him where Adrianna was at, and he said she was playing at the pool. I said, well, go tell her to come in so we can get ready to go, and we'll go get your school stuff.
There's a bit more to what Amanda said, which we'll address in detail next episode, but generally speaking, it lines up with AJ's accounting of the same thing.
Was you climbing a tree today?
The tree that I was already in. It was a short tree. It was this big.
What was Adrianna doing?
Screaming, and she kept on getting dunked. And then I got out the tree because Mom told me to go get Adrianna, and then I found her dead in the pool, and I had to go get her.
Why did you go to get her?
Because my mom told me to.
Indeed, going back to episode 1, this is the 8th part of AJ's core story. So how do we make sense of all this, given that Earl Wells saw no one in the front yard or in or by the pool when he drove by the trailer from about 2:23 to 2:24 p.m. at the earliest? My theory is this. While Amanda was taking her shower, the kids moved from playing in the front yard to playing in the backyard behind the trailer. When AJ heard the rare car driving by in their dirt road, he told Adrianna he was going to see who was driving by. Meanwhile, Adrianna said she was going to scoop some bugs out of the pool. AJ then went to the front yard just as Earl had driven past, while Adrianna retrieved the red wagon and the bike. Next, AJ made his way to the garbage can tree, while Adrianna wheeled the wagon over to the pool by holding the handle with one hand and rolled the bike over with her other hand. Side note, you'll hear more about this next episode. Next, as AJ climbed a few feet in the garbage can tree, Adrianna put the bike and wagon next to the pool, stepping in the wagon and holding the handlebar of the bike with one hand for support as she scooped out bugs in water with her other hand. Around the same time, Amanda finished changing over the laundry, opened the front door, and asked AJ where Adrianna was. AJ said she was playing by the pool or something similar, and Amanda told him to get her so they could shower before going school shopping. This was at about 2:25 or 2:26 p.m. Then, at 2:27 or 2:28 p.m., Adrianna was in the wagon, trying to scoop out bugs in water, when she fell in the pool and hit her head. This happened roughly when AJ was getting out of the garbage can tree. AJ then rounded the corner of the trailer, saw his sister in the pool, threw the white bucket at her to see if she would move, and finally tried to pull her out of the pool. At around the same time that AJ was trying to pull his sister out of the pool, Amanda called Alan Sr. at 2:30 p.m. from inside the trailer, and here's what she described.
And he jumped up on the wagon and looked in. He was trying to, I guess, rake at her.
Did you holler at him to go get her out the front or back door?
The front door. And then when I went to the back door, I was on the phone with Alan because I was going to tell him that we were getting ready to go. And that's when I looked out and asked AJ what was he doing, and he said she was upside down in the pool. And then I run out to the pool, and I still had Alan on the phone. And that's when I told him that Adrianna was in the pool and she was upside down. And he told me to get her out, and I, dropped the phone and pulled her out.
Meanwhile, here's what Alan Sr. testified to about the call.
When she called me, I was at work, okay? I was on the phone with her. Her little boy come inside, and she told AJ that they needed to get ready. They was going shopping to go tell her to come back in so they could take a shower. Mm-hmm. So next thing I know, I heard my front door open on my trailer. You couldn't know the door open, and I heard Amanda go out and down the steps. She had the phone with her. And as soon as she rounded the trailer heading towards the pool, you could tell that she started in a trot. You could tell my phone was bouncing. And when she got to the pool, she was in the pool upside down. I said, well, get her out, put her on the ground, turn her to her side, and call 911. And the next thing I know, the phone goes dead. So I waited probably 5 or 6 minutes, called her back. She said she'd call 911, and they had paged out the fire department.
And finally, here's AJ's recollection of the call.
Didn't you tell somebody
Yes, sir.
that you told your mommy that Adrianna was upside down in the pool? Do you remember that? Okay. Was your mommy talking on the phone when you told her that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you remember running to the house and telling your mommy Adrianna is upside down in the pool. You remember that, don't you? AJ?
Yes, sir.
You remember that, don't you?
Yes, sir.
And your mommy was talking on the phone, wasn't she?
Yes, sir.
And what did she do when you told her Adrianna's upside down in the pool? So what did mommy do?
Come running outside.
She came running, didn't she?
Yes, sir.
And was Adrianna where you told your mommy she was?
Yes, sir.
And what did your mommy do?
I can't remember.
Did she get her out of the pool?
Yes, sir.
So what do we know about this call? As noted, it started at 2:30 and 16 seconds, and the call log shows it lasted 4 minutes and 11.6 seconds. So it ended at about 2:34 and 28 seconds. Clearly, as Alan Sr. described, the phone call started from inside the trailer and ended when Amanda dropped the cell phone so she could try to pull Adrianna out of the pool. Under a very conservative estimate, let's assume it took Amanda 48 seconds to pull Adrianna out of the pool. Now, in fairness, it could have taken a bit shorter or a bit longer for her to do this, but the broad basis for my estimate comes from Amanda's own description of pulling her out of the pool.
Did you have any trouble getting her out of the pool?
Well, she was kind of in the middle, so I had to lean over the side.
But you didn't have to get in it?
I didn't have to get in it. I could reach her from the outside.
Were you standing in the wagon?
No, I was standing on the ground. And the side that I was on, the pool's not even, so it was kind of leaning that way, and I just leaned over.
Did you pull her out about where the wagon's at, or on that side?
No, on the other side. The wagon was here, and I pulled her out right here.
Kind of where she was laying, that area?
So again, with a very conservative 48-second estimate for this, that takes to 2:35 and 16 seconds, exactly 5 minutes after the call started, with Amanda quickly trying to clear water from Adrianna's mouth and calling 911 at 2:36 p.m. As I said earlier, I think that Adrianna fell in the pool between 2:27 and 2:28, which again is about the earliest she could have ended up in the pool after Earl Wells drove by. It also lines up with what I was told by Dr. John R. Fleetmeyer, a drowning expert with over 28 years' experience. First, here was the general timetable he gave for a 7-year-old to fatally drown underwater. A 7-year-old child falls underwater. What time frame would you give in terms of how long they could be under, where even if they're pulled out, CPR, etc., is not going to save their life?
Okay, and I appeared in the jury many times explaining that timeline. A little bit has to do with water temperature, but this is a pool, so we can factor that out. But there's what we call clinical death and biological death. Clinical death is the point that you no longer have a heartbeat and are no longer breathing, and that can happen in just a couple minutes. But usually the threshold with neurological impairment, neurological damage, and the point that resuscitation can no longer be effective, the timeline is usually between 8 and 10 minutes.
Okay. Then, when I told him that Adrianna's heartbeat was restored by both the EMTs and the ER doctor before she died 2.5 hours later, he added the following.
I could say reliably that we're doing, if they were able to reestablish a pulse, it definitely didn't, she wasn't under for more than 10 minutes, and more likely than not, more like the 7 to 8 minute range.
Got it. So based on both Earl Wells and the drowning expert, Adrianna likely went underwater between 2:27 and 2:28 p.m., 7 to 8 minutes before Amanda pulled her out of the pool at about 2:35. Again, all of this works really well with Amanda's timeline. She talks to Alan Jr. about taking the kids school shopping from 2:19 to 2:20. She changes over the laundry until about 2:25. At about 2:25 or 2:26, she opens the front door, sees AJ in the garbage can tree, and tells him to get Adrianna so they can get ready for school shopping. She then goes back in the house, calls Alan Sr., sees AJ pulling at something in the pool, and runs out to rescue Adrianna when AJ tells her she's upside down in the pool.
So, what's the state's timeline, and does it work with Adrianna falling in the water between 2:27 and 2:28 p.m., the estimate based on Earl Wells and our drowning expert? Well, we've told you about the 2 drownings timeline multiple times and how there's no way it works. But let's fast forward a little bit to the end of that timeline, right to the final fatal drowning. In closing argument, how did prosecutor Larry Bassford try to navigate around 2 things? First, AJ testifying that Amanda told him to get his sister while he was in the garbage can tree. And second, Amanda's cell phone call from inside the trailer at 2:30 p.m. Here is what Bassford claimed happened in his closing argument after Amanda had dunked Adrianna.
Then after this happened, what did she do? Did she take her out of the water? No. She went inside. She thought about what had happened, and she started to think about this alibi. What can I do now? What can I do now? What can I do now? While she's inside, she thinks, okay, I'll be on the phone. I can get all of this accomplished. I'll be on the phone when I discover it. And so she goes out and calls AJ, and then after she tells AJ, she gets on the phone with her boyfriend, Alan Carnley, when the terrible tragedy is allegedly discovered. Now, you use your common sense, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, so let's use our own common sense here. Amanda's call to Alan was 4 minutes and 11.6 seconds. Indeed, this was how Larry Bassford started his rebuttal closing, the very last thing the jurors heard from the parties before deliberating.
Now, if you would, with me, I'd like for you to just take 4 minutes and 11 seconds out of today, out of my time for argument, and let's see how long 4 minutes and 11 seconds is. We'll just start right there when it gets to 6. We'll let it go around 4 times, and then we'll stop it when it comes back to 8.
This was a really effective rhetorical tool at trial, having the courtroom sit in silence for 4 minutes and 11.6 seconds to show how long Amanda was on the phone while Adrianna was in the pool. But at the same time, that's over 4 minutes when Amanda wasn't drowning Adrianna. And as we said, if you had a mere 48 seconds for Amanda to then get Adrianna out of the pool after the call, that's a full 5 minutes that Amanda wasn't drowning Adrianna. The combined statements of Earl Wells and our drowning expert mean that Adrianna was only underwater for about 7 to 8 minutes. Otherwise, Adrianna's pulse could not have been temporarily restored, and Earl Wells would have seen someone outside the trailer or by the pool when he drove by. As noted, during the 5 minutes that Amanda was on the phone inside the trailer and then pulling Adrianna out of the pool, she couldn't have been drowning her. That only leaves a total of 2 to 3 minutes for Amanda to drown Adrianna and do everything else that prosecutor Larry Bassford described in his closing. 1. Walk from the pool to the trailer. 2. Enter the trailer. 3. Spend time concocting the alibi of the phone call with Allen Sr. 4. Go to the front door, open it, and see AJ in the garbage can tree. 5. Ask AJ where Adrianna was, being told she was playing by the pool, and then telling AJ to get her so they could shower before school shopping. 6. Going back into the trailer. And 7. Taking out her phone and dialing Allen Sr.'s number. We would submit that those 7 things take at least 3 minutes in and of themselves, leaving no time for the actual drowning. Even if you think this is an overestimation, that still only leaves a few seconds, maybe a minute at most for the drowning. And recall that the state's theory was that first, AJ heard his mom drowning his sister, got down from the garbage can tree, walked to the corner of the trailer, was able to see the drowning, still in progress. There's not nearly enough time for all of this to happen, and that's because it didn't. With the addition of Earl Wells and our drowning expert, the elephant from the parable finally comes into focus. Not only does AJ's core story no longer make sense, but Bassford's attempt to reconstruct the timeline also doesn't add up. On the other hand, Amanda's timeline of what she did and didn't do lines up with all the available evidence, including what Allen Jr. observed in the hour before the drowning. But you might wonder, how did Adrianna end up in the pool if she was afraid of water? And how did Adrianna drown if she was taller than the water in the pool? These were 2 big points of emphasis by the prosecution at trial, but do they stand up to scrutiny, including statements by both Allen Jr. and our drowning expert? Next time on Undisclosed.
Hey Undisclosed listeners, it's Mithil, executive producer of Undisclosed Toward Justice. As you know, we did something new a few months ago by utilizing SpeakPipe as a way for you guys to leave us voice notes. For anyone new here, you can go to speakpipe.com/undisclosed to leave us your questions or thoughts and comments. Since the response to SpeakPipe has been so amazing, we've got 2 additional exciting announcements to make. First, we have a new Facebook community group where you can engage with us and one another about all things true crime and criminal justice. Just go to facebook.com/groups/towardjustice and answer 3 simple questions and you're in. In addition to that, we also just relaunched our Patreon page at patreon.com/undisclosedpod. So many folks have already signed up and we can't express our gratitude enough to each and every single one of you. Even $1 goes a long way and allows us to do the work pro bono for our defendants. Also, I would like to give a quick shout out to Hannah McCarthy for audio production, as well as Patrick Cortez and Ramiro Marquez for our theme music. To engage with us on social media, we're on Instagram and Facebook at Undisclosed Podcast. You can find us on TikTok, YouTube, and X at Undisclosed Pod. Whether you're new or a returning listener, you can check out our previous cases and bonus episodes by going to our revamped website at undisclosedpod.com. If you would like to follow Colin and Rabia on social media, you can follow Rabia at Rabia2, the number 2, on Instagram, and Colin at EvidenceProf on Instagram, X, and Blue Sky. Thank you for your continued support for us and for supporting our sponsors. Until next time.